Hi, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Enterprise Alchemy Podcast. I'm your host, Meg, and this week I am joined by Kelly Dixon. Hi, Kelly. How are you doing?
Good morning, Meg. I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. It's so excited to speak to you, and it looks so beautiful there, which is not here. So that's so nice to see. It's a bit of vibrance in my scenery today. So let's dive straight in with the questions. And one of the things I really wanted to ask you first, within your realm of work, is how can we best attract employees, great employees? What can we be doing better within our organizations and corporations?
Yeah, absolutely, Meg. So I'm going to have to employ that standard HR answer here. It depends, right?
Yeah.
So it depends. What does your organization consider to be the best employees? Are the best employees the ones that like to come into the office every day in their business suits? Are they people with deep empathy for others or for a cause? Are they people that are in the relentless pursuit of improvement? You will attract your best employees when you really get clear about what that means to you or your organization. And then you market the heck out of your benefits and your culture to those best employees. In my organization, we truly value service, efficiency, and innovation. So we spend a lot of time marketing around those ideas. How is municipal government making positive impacts on the lives of others in our community? How are we overcoming the stigma that government is laborious and slow? We did a big campaign a few years ago with the idea that Maricopa County offers careers that resemble anything but government, right? That was the tagline. Anything but government was everywhere. And it really lit people up, I think. In 2024, Maricopa County won 75 NACO awards. That's the National Association of Counties. And that's the most awards we've ever brought home. And those 75 awards reflect our relentless pursuit of innovations that make a real impact in the lives of the people that we serve. And you can be sure that we marketed the heck out of that. We've done very well, I think, in identifying who we are as an organization and who we want on our teams. So it's that commitment, I think, to our identity and brand that has helped us attract the best employees, at least for our organization. So, yeah.
That was, I love that answer. So basically, it's really just getting clear on what yourself and the organization wants when they're looking for employees rather than just dishing out. I wonder if that's what people go through in the process of when they are employing people, or if that's even on the forefront of their mind is what our values and our propositions are as a company. When they're employing people, rather than just looking through what this person offers, whether that's qualifications or experience. Actually, do they align with what you have, whether this person's a star in everything or not? So going back to a little bit about what you said then about employee benefits and stuff as well, do you find that that is more important than salary?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that benefits should be considered a part of your salary. So, here in this organization, we think about the package as the total rewards package, where salary is just one part of that package. So, the rest of the package includes wellness benefits, a pension, a childcare facility for county employees that offers care all day and overnight. So even our employees on the night shift can benefit. It includes tuition reimbursement, career development, 24/7 access to fitness facilities, hybrid and flexible work options. Even as so many private sector employers are rolling back those pandemic era benefits. I recently, so within the last 8 months, I lost an employee to a promotion with another organization. And she and I met up recently to connect and sort of catch up. And she told me that even though she accepted a higher paying position, her paychecks are smaller than they were when she was here with the county because of the cost of health insurance coverage. She said she loves her new job, but that I should keep her in mind in the event there was ever an opening on my team. She'd love to come back. So I think, yes, clearly benefits, a job that offers a really good total rewards package is extremely valuable.
100%. And that's clearly obviously been something that you've recently found out. I wonder as well then if that's something that can potentially change the way this generation is thinking towards jobs and careers, because that's something I also wanted to talk to you about and we've spoken about in the past, is particularly my generation. I feel that we're all living for retirement and everyone's striving for this early retirement. And I hear the number 40 massively. I will be retired by the age I'm 40. For me, it's never been something that I've really been able to understand or connect with, because I always thought, I'm going to be bored. What am I going to do? I'm not going to be using my brain every day. I'm not going to be, proactive about my choices. It's almost like when you have all the money in the world, like it becomes, what's next? Like it becomes boring. I wonder if, when you're talking about the benefits, that if that is something that could really keep people on for longer. When you say about the gym, and especially out in the States with health insurance and things like that, are they reasons people want to stay at work longer? And do you think this is going to be something that we're seeing more of, this early retirement? Is that okay? What's your opinions on it? How are you as an organization working around that?
Yeah, so let's look at it from this perspective. So during and post COVID, we saw a lot of folks retiring, many earlier than we ever expected. But in the years since, we've seen a lot of those that retired early bouncing back to a work lifestyle. I think those that are returning to work after retiring early are not necessarily coming back to their old jobs. They're coming back for jobs that offer more work-life balance. They're coming back to maybe 2 part-time jobs instead of 1 40-hour-a-week job. They're coming back for flexibility and the opportunity to reskill. They're coming back for the benefits. So I don't think companies should be worried about a trend toward early retirement. I mean, what is worry anyway, right? It's kind of a pointless emotion. But I think smart organizations should be thinking about ways to offer workers more flexibility. So my organization has painfully few part-time positions, and I think that's a fault. I think we need to be opening up more opportunities for these boomerang retirees that still have so much to offer, but don't want that 40-hour-a-week grind. I think smart organizations are promoting a new era of flexibility to attract those that are bouncing back out of retirement versus worrying about those that are eager to retire early. I think smart organizations have an opportunity for anyone that's looking.
I think as well, it's certainly this trial and error kind of aspect, and people don't know they want something unless they've had it to experience it. So people think they want early retirement, or people think they want to work from home and they're envious of that. But once they try it out and experience it, it's certainly not for everyone. But until we are able to give people those options to experience those new things, they're always going to be wondering what if, and is that how we're potentially losing people because other people are more open to it and they're not fearful of that. I definitely think that's something that we need to maybe consider a bit more. Talking more about individuals then, we'd spoken previously as well about how, as organizations and people like yourself within your careers and what you do within your realm of work, how can we help individuals find their voice and their career path? What kind of advice have you given to people before that have come to you and said, I'm a bit lost, or, like what can I be doing to better myself to be more successful, to ensure I'm more successful?
Yeah, I think 100% your career satisfaction and happiness is ultimately going to be found when you tie your career to what you value the most. So getting really clear about your values is probably the most important thing in finding your career path. If your work isn't aligned to your values, it's just going to be a job. It's not going to be a career. And I think for a while in your work life, that's okay. Do the jobs. You'll be amazed at what you're going to learn. But I think ultimately you have to seek out the jobs that are most meaningful to you, and keep working your path so that you come closer and closer to doing that meaningful work. Eventually, I think we all have to come around to doing what we love. I think a big part of my success has been my commitment to saying yes. I've never turned down an opportunity. If someone asks me to perform a task at work, I never say no, even if I don't have the first clue how to do that task or what it entails. I say yes, and then I go straight for my resources. I produce something. If it isn't dead on, the first time, the person who gave me the task will help me kind of hone the product so it eventually meets the requirements. But I always start with yes. And then I ferret out for myself how to do the thing. So this is all kind of leading to the answer to your question. I think what I wish that I had learned sooner is that all of this yesing, right, has led me to a place where I'm not quite sure how to say no. And saying no is all about setting your boundaries. At this stage of my career, I absolutely must set boundaries. And I'm finding that kind of hard to do after all these years of saying yes. So maybe in my 30s, I should have started practicing no, yeah, a little here, a little there, learning how to develop those boundaries, because it seems to me now that people respect me more when I'm able to be open and transparent about what I can do and what is just not on my radar at this moment. But yeah, I would ultimately say that taking calculated risks, saying yes, that's why I'm here on your show today. I knew nothing about coming into a situation like this, but it was, of course, yes.
I love that mindset, that attitude. I'd spoken to another lady a few months ago out in the States, and obviously what I'm doing now is, it's crazy how different cultures and different people from around the world, what you can really learn from their own career success or their own personal paths. And she again said that she says yes. And she said to me, she was like, if there's one piece of advice I could give you today on this 30-minute call before I don't speak to you again, is say yes to every single opportunity. And that's how she was on the podcast as well. And that's how she went from being a kind of stay-at-home mum to now COO of a Fortune 500 company. So it's crazy how you shift that mindset. I also think it's something that obviously takes a lot of time. I think probably our own insecurities and confidence and lack of or fear of knowledge around certain aspects is why we say no, or we think we can't do something. But I also treat, and I still love this saying, every day is a school day. Like every day is, there is nothing stopping you from doing it but yourself. If you want to go and learn and get to that goal you've set yourself, or that task, or taking that risk, what's stopping you? Like there is nothing that is stopping you but you. And I think being comfortable is probably the worst position to be in. The minute you're comfortable, you're settled. And I think you kind of have to learn to have a bit of a mix in your personal and career life of what you want. From that note, I really want us to talk a little bit more and dive in a bit deeper about you and your career and how you got to where you are now from your past, which is super, super interesting. Aside from the tequila talk right now, we're not there yet. Started a tequila company. But yeah, how you started as a performer, and just talking more about your early life, and then how that is in turn got you to where you are now, and the skills you've learned to be able to mix the two. Because I'm sure some people, when you tell them your story, are like, how did you go from there to there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when I was 6 years old, my mom we were sitting at the breakfast table, and she was reading the local paper, and there was an ad that said something like, "Do your children look like elves? If so, bring them out to this local theater audition." And she looked across the table and she looked at me and she was like, "Oh, definitely. She looks like an elf." So when I was like 6 years old, I did my first theater show. It was The Hobbit, and I indeed was cast as an elf. Worked out well. Um, I love doing theater, did a ton of community theater when I was a kid. And then I took my first professional role as a paid actor when I was 12. So my childhood was very different from my peers. I knew a lot about hard work, late nights, working hard to get something accomplished, the feeling of maybe not being fully ready when you are opening the show, and what that feels like, to fall a little bit and make some mistakes and come back stronger the next night. So a lot of these lessons in my childhood, I think, really have paved the way for where I am today. So I did my undergrad as a musical theater major at Point Park Conservatory at the time. It's now Point Park University, but at the time it was a very small liberal arts college. I was attending school on scholarship, on a talent scholarship. In my 20s, I lived as a working actor in Chicago, did a bunch of theater, some great, one really organic and beautiful performance of Into the Woods that we did for a short run, and then it got picked up for a second run. And so, yeah, I had a long career from childhood into my 20s, my late 20s, working in the performing arts. And I kind of took a different direction in my 30s. I was really seeking out something that would produce long-term gains. I had a lot of excitement in the performance field, but I was really looking for something with long-term gains. I fell into recruitment in my 30s, and just got really lucky with an opportunity. And there was something about recruitment that these were words, these were ideas that I really understood. I understood from a young age that the importance of a great resume and a headshot, getting you to the next step. So yeah, I worked in recruitment for about 6 years in the private sector. Then I moved to here to Phoenix, Arizona in 2014. And that's when I started my career in public service. I worked for the Arizona Department of Administration as a recruiter, and then as a talent acquisition manager. And in that job, we actually overhauled their entire recruitment process using more of the business efficiencies that I was aware of from the private sector. So we were able to bring their time to fill from about 120 days down to about 56. So we kind of cut their time to fill in half by pushing in some ideas around efficiencies and lean management. And I joined Maricopa County about 8 years ago. I've worked in kind of every area of HR here. I came over first as an HR operations manager over 12 county departments. And then I've also worked as the assistant director for recruitment and training for the elections department. I've worked as a training and partnering branch manager with the Department of Transportation here at Maricopa County. And today I am the talent acquisition manager for the entire county, 50 of our 52 departments. So we recruit for everything except the sheriff's office and the judicial branch. So our customers span, every area of industry, every job skill imaginable. And we're an organization of 14,000 in the fourth largest county in the nation. So it feels like a huge organization, and it is, but it also has, that feeling of local government and service-oriented sort of design in how we deliver our services. And so I think, kind of to tie it all together, some of the things that I learned as a performer, as an actor, as an artist, that really lend themselves to my career currently. This ability to take risks, to be totally unafraid of new experiences, to be able to talk to anyone about anything, jump on a call with a total stranger and make a connection. I think all of these things that I learned in my childhood, I continue to live out those experiences. I'm just doing it in a way that's serving the community, and it's a bit more feast than famine.
I really could agree more. Obviously, we've spoken. I'm a performer in my background as well, and I think actually, if anything, you can do, even if you're not into performing or theatre or music, but it's actually to set yourself those challenges early on of being able to speak publicly or even get up on a karaoke night, just something that gets yourself out there on a stage, because you will not understand the skills you will learn from being able to break out of that comfort zone, and build a bit of confidence doing something like that you will then be able to use later in life. Because I network a lot now and I get a lot of people. So although we're slightly different, when I network, people say, "Oh, you're so good at it. You're so good at speaking to people." And then they find out that I was a performer and they link the two. And it's surprising what you can learn early on and putting yourself out there that you can then use later in life. Because I did say to you, didn't I? I said, how do people link up being, theatre to recruitment? And it's funny what you can pick up from your journey over the years and how that then develops into something else. Because I think that career path isn't obvious for yourself or to other people, but what you've picked up, it certainly makes sense now.
And I think, when you're an actor, it's all about selling yourself, being marketable, tailoring your resume to the opportunity, tailoring your look when you walk in. Do you look like, what they might be looking for? So I think all of these strategies are things that I'm able to pass on to job seekers. It is self-promotion. It is self-marketing. You do use that resume as a marketing document. The product that you're marketing is you do tailor it to each opportunity that you're going out for. So yeah, to me, it's almost like the work in recruitment is transcending from my experiences when I was young.
100%. And I want to dive a little bit into that in a second. But before we move on, I really want to ask you, if there's someone that's watching now and they're actually really interested in recruitment or talent acquisition, what are the distinct differences from private and public sectors within recruitment?
Big differences. So, I think few things really are the cause for the difference. So in the public sector, our salaries are a matter of public record. You can go online and find out what I make. You can go online and find out what my boss makes, what my staff makes. It's extremely transparent. And so that was really interesting for me when I first came into government, because everybody talks about what they make and they talk very openly about it. And I had never experienced that in the private sector, especially as a recruiter, because when you're recruiting in the private sector, your job is to, ensure the company's bottom line. So you're hiring the best talent you possibly can at the cheapest rate you can possibly get them at. And so part of that negotiation skill in the private sector is not something that I'm tapping into now. There really is no negotiating around salary where I am now. We post our full salary range on every single job. You will know as a candidate, we're going to be hiring you somewhere between this and this. And if we have the opportunity to chat on the phone, or if you meet me at a community event, I'm actually going to tell you, we really hire somewhere around the midpoint. It's very, very rare that we actually hire somebody at the top of the salary range, because we want to give people the opportunity to grow in their position. So that kind of transparency causes recruitment to be very, very different between the private and the public sector. In terms of expediency, I think that Maricopa County is doing a great job. The average time to fill across any sector in the U.S. right now is about 42 days. And we're hovering right around 50 days. So we're not too far off what is sort of the industry standard. We have a lot of formality on the backside of our processes that remains, I think, from years and years of being sort of clunky old government. I think we've done a really good job of ensuring that that clunkiness isn't affecting our candidates as best as we can. We're kind of holding on to some of those older ideas, I think, more on the back end. And that's things like, when you're going to interview a round of candidates for a position, we have a process that we follow in terms of, each panel member sort of has time to overlook the code of conduct for interviewing. And there's sort of some standard language that we always put into our interviews to let people know about our pension system and how that works. So there are some deep formalities that we maintain. I think that we are moving more towards being offering more flexibility, but I don't think we'll ever be at that sort of crazy footloose world of recruitment in the private sector, because we have deep pockets. We're an organization that has a lot of influence, and we have a responsibility to follow the rule of law and to be ethical in our hiring practices and the way that we engage candidates. We try to approach from a very, very transparent place, which I think is very different from recruiting in the private sector.
There's something I've always wondered, actually, is particularly here in the UK when I've applied for jobs in the past, is if there is a job ad that doesn't have the salary on there. And I've always thought that was strange. And I wonder now if that's to do with sort of that negotiation that you're talking about and sort of the budgets of in-house. I wonder if that's particularly one of the reasons. It never really made sense to me.
Yeah, it is exactly that. We don't want to give you, so in the private sector, we don't want to give you any idea what we're able to pay. We want to find out from you what you're willing to take, right? And so it's a bit of that used car salesman mentality. I want to win this negotiation, right? And we just don't have that here.
Yeah, when they ask you that question of sort of what did you have in your last job, what was your salary then, or what do you want to be paid, I'm like, well, what kind of question is that? Or like, what do I want to be paid? I don't know. Well, what's the max you can give me? Where's the max I can be that is feasible? Okay, let's go a little bit back into your, sorry, go on.
Well, so one thing I was going to say is I have had to do a lot of retraining here at the county because we ask the question. So we post our salary range, and then we ask the question in the application, what salary are you looking for? And of course, the candidates are going to be asking for the very top of the range. That's called self-promotion. That's advocating for yourself. It's very natural. I've had hiring managers tell me, "Oh, I decline, or I don't choose to consider for interview anybody that's asking for the salary above the midpoint. I just scrap those candidates." And I've had to do so much retraining and educating of these hiring managers to say, no, that's a candidate that's advocating for themselves. Don't count them out. They're asking for the most that they can. Give them an opportunity to interview and talk to them about their flexibility if they have any. Explain, sort of the county's compensation process, and see if they're willing to come down. Just because somebody's self-advocating doesn't mean they should be tossed out. I think most of us would be self-advocating, and then when we come to the table, we understand sort of the realities of the situation. We might have some flexibility to come down. So yeah, that has been really interesting since I've been in this position. This idea of, well, I'm just not even going to consider a candidate that's asking for the most. I think that that's backwards thinking. Of course, our candidates are asking for the most. And then we sit down with them, we have an interview, we talk about the opportunity, we talk about the benefits, right? Maybe even the candidate hasn't looked at our benefits when they're throwing that, that number out. That's a cursory number. It doesn't necessarily mean that the candidate is unwilling to be flexible.
Mm. It's an interesting thing when people look at communication different to others, isn't it? Of how someone would perceive that. Because for me, when you say you advocate yourself, if I was to come to you and say the mark's 35, the highest, and the lowest is 30, and I said I think I would want 30, 32, is that a lack of confidence in myself or my own faith in my own ability to work? If I'm coming at you and saying I want 35, that's because I'm telling you I'm worth 35. So it's funny how people perceive that differently.
Yeah, and let me just say this first. I don't think there's any compensation strategy that's perfect, but I think we do a very good job of, in terms of the design of our compensation strategy here, we take into great consideration internal equity. And when I'm talking about that, what I mean is we make a commitment to our current employees that barring, extremely unique qualifiers or an extremely unique situation, we won't bring somebody in from the outside that has fewer years of experience and pay them more than you are making today. So part of our compensation strategy includes really looking at your creditable experience, what you bring to the table, and then we bounce that against all of the other people in that same job skill category. And we ensure that we slot you in somewhere in terms of salary, somewhere in between someone who's got less creditable experience than you and someone who has more creditable experience than you. So it can be challenging, I think, for the external candidate. But once you get into the county system, you can be very, very confident that your rate and your years of experience are protected. And I think that really helps us with the retention conversation. Whereas in the private sector, these conversations aren't happening out in the open. So it may be very normal for someone with fewer years of experience to come in and make a lot more than somebody that's been putting in the work for 3 to 5 years in the organization.
Yeah, I see. Let's go a little bit back before we round a few things up. I just wanted to, you'd mentioned before that what you had learned from your career in theatre and what you find really essential is actually to be ruthless. And I just wondered if you could elaborate a bit more on that, and also what other skills you think that you've learned from challenges over the year that you've faced, whether that be personal or career, that if someone was to come to you now in their early 20s and say, this is exactly where I envision myself to be, what's the best piece of advice you could give me to ensure that I get there?
That's a great question. So, I think this maybe kind of loops us back to that first question that we had. But I would tell anyone, if you're aspiring, if you want to, if you have a goal in mind and you're looking to reach that goal, the best way to reach it is to capitalize on your strengths. Find out what is that one thing that you do that no one else does, and then go out and sell that thing for a salary that makes you happy. My mother always told me, Kelly, you could sell the paint off the walls. And I didn't even know what that meant. I had no idea what she was saying at the time, but it's really true. My thing that I do is I sell people ideas. One of my employees said recently, when I leave your office, Kelly, and we've had a strategy conversation, I come out feeling so good about what I just created in there. And then a while later, I realize you created it. You just somehow convinced me that it was my idea all along. And I think that's my thing, right? That's my unique qualifier. So I would say, what is yours? There is something inside of you that you do better than anyone else. So find that thing, whatever it is, and capitalize on it. I think that is how you find real joy in your work. When I made the decision to walk away from performing, I was pretty lost, and I really didn't know what direction to go in, because there was one thing that I was good at, getting up on a stage and singing my heart out, and emoting and living inside of a character. That was the one thing that I knew how to do. And when in my late 20s, early 30s, I made the decision to walk away from performing. I was quite scared. And it's been very exciting for me to look back on that moment of just complete, like, loss. I was very lost. And then I had to really dig deep and figure out what is the thing that's going to push me forward. What is the next thing that I can do? And I think recruitment was probably that first time after I left performing, that excitement around getting somebody a job. That moment when you're a part of somebody landing their next great opportunity. That fire that I felt, that excitement was the only thing that came close to being up on a stage and performing. And so, yeah, I think I was able to capitalize on some of the things that I learned when I was young. I was able to capitalize on some of the passion and the excitement that I found as an actor, and parlay that into this career. And I'd be the first one I tell my boss this all the time. I love my job. I really, really love what I do. And I think a big part of that is because I'm bringing in the things that I value. I understand what I'm here to do, how I'm able to give back, and I get the opportunity to do that every day.
Well, that's so lovely to hear. That was really, really wonderful advice. Thank you for sharing that, Kelly. Before we say goodbye, because this has been an amazing episode, my first podcast, so thank you so much for joining me hosting this. I couldn't think of a more wonderful person to join me on my first experience doing this. But we've got to ask you the most important question, and that's for my own records as well. How best to drink tequila for us over here in the UK that shot it and do not enjoy the taste of tequila, and most of us go, ooh, why would you drink and enjoy that? Just tell me before we go.
Yeah, so I have to give a little bit of information up front.
Yeah.
So I had the pleasure of, when I was between acting and this world, I had the pleasure of working at the Princess Resort in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I took on a role there called Tequila Sheila. So I had a little cart that I would drive around the restaurant, and I had a bunch of tequilas on my cart, and I would just engage conversation at tables, teach people about tequila, teach people about the different flavor profiles, whether the tequila is grown in the lowlands or the highlands, and what a French oak barrel can produce in terms of flavor versus a blanco tequila that has almost no aging at all. So this is why I'm passionate about tequila. I had this opportunity to learn so much about it, and to then turn around and invite people to learn more. So I think two things. If you're a white liquors person, vodka or maybe gin, you would prefer a blanco tequila. If you're a Scotch drinker, if you're a bourbon drinker, you're going to far prefer a tequila that it has some aging. I think first, this idea of shooting tequila with the salt and the lime, that was because tequila tasted awful and we just wanted to get it down. The lovely thing is that there's delicious tequila out there that won't make you, gag when you drink it. I think tequila is great in a snifter with one tiny little ice cube. I think it's perfect after a big meal. I think you can drink tequila like you would eat a dessert with a coffee, have a cigar, enjoy. But yeah, there's a lot of neat different flavor profiles out there. The tequila industry is booming. And so it's a couple of my favorites. I will drink one Cuervo product, and that is Reserva de la Familia. It is a fantastic after dinner tequila, notes of creme brulee and cigar smoke and sugar, and it's a perfect way to end a meal in a snifter with a little piece of ice.
I love the way you talk about tequila because it's so different to us. The one thing I ever took away from someone who I know lives in the States was that they drink tequila all the time because it's the least hangovers, I think, or something like that. And I was like, right, you've sold me. So after I go away today and just digest all of this wonderful conversation we had, I'm going to go online and see if I can get myself into tequila because I'm a white spirit drinker. So I reckon I could quite easily switch over.
Yeah, I'll send you a couple names that you should check out.
Thank you. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining me, Kelly. It's been so lovely to chat to you. And I think we're at the end of this episode. So thank you to everyone that's joined this week's episode of the Enterprise Alchemy Podcast. I'm Meg, and this is Kelly, and we'll see you in the next one.